I'm Paul Cram, talking, of course, about one of my favorite things, books. For those of you that have listened or followed any of my social media accounts, this is, of course, no surprise. One of the things that makes today's book that I want to talk about fun for me to discuss is I actually gave it to a niece of mine as a Christmas gift this past Christmas. And fun fact, that niece is actually currently earning an English major at college. I just have to say, like, my bibliophile heart glowed. It glowed and glowed when she reached out to say that this book that I gave her for Christmas currently is in her top 3 books of all time that she's ever read. And that just makes this uncle so happy that my book obsession, it's spilling over in some good ways. I myself just finished the book, and I'm excited to talk about it. So here we go. The book is The Likeness by Tana French. This is book number 2 in the Dublin Murder Squad series. I myself have not actually read anything else by Tana French. I've only read this one book, The Likeness. So I will at some point have to go back and read In the Woods. This is the whole series, but I'm just going to specifically focus on The Likeness. But the whole series is thrillers, suspense, mystery, detective, police procedural crime. That kind of a genre. This book in particular, it's 465 pages. Wait. 466 pages, sorry. And it is published by Penguin Publishing Group. I listened to the audiobook version, which was narrated by Heather O'Neill, which, oh my gosh, if you are anything like me and love accents, I highly recommend checking out the audiobook version. Heather O'Neill, mwah, you did amazing. That was such a bang-up job. I listened to the audiobook version when I'd be like out on a walk or, sometimes on the bus or whatever I was doing. And I also have a hard copy of the book. Like I actually picked up a copy for myself too last Christmas. And I really enjoy I enjoy sometimes listening to the book and then finding where I'm at and then reading some of it at night, and then jumping into the audiobook. I like going back and forth. So if you've never done that or tried it, I recommend it. Specifically for this one, like I mentioned, Heather O'Neill, the narrator, she does a really good accent. I don't even know if she's like Irish or not, but she fooled me if she isn't. I'm going to read the book's synopsis real quick here. In the follow-up to Tana French's runaway bestseller, In the Woods, Cassie Maddox has transferred out of the Dublin Murder Squad until an urgent telephone call brings her back to an eerie crime scene. The victim looks exactly like Cassie and carries an ID identifying herself as Alexandra Madison, an alias Cassie once used as an undercover cop. Suddenly, Cassie is back undercover to find out not only who killed this young woman, but more importantly, who she was. The Likeness is a supremely suspenseful story exploring the nature of identity and belonging. And I have to say, right off the bat here, as I'm going to talk about the book, I really enjoyed it. Like, I was pleasantly surprised. I initially came across this book on YouTube. There was a booktuber on YouTube, and she was recommending a whole bunch of books, and this was one of them. And off the top of my head, I cannot remember her name. So I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes, because shout out to the booktuber who mentioned this. I really appreciate it. It's a great read. One of the questions that I want to answer right away is, would I recommend this book to anyone? Like, I always find that it's a really good litmus test. Like, if I think a book is good, if I would recommend it to people. The answer is yes, I would. Uh, there's one caveat that I'll place in there, which from that synopsis too. So I'm not really giving anything away, but that synopsis, it has this in there already, and it ties to my caveat. The caveat is you have to do a little bit of that suspension of disbelief piece. The likelihood of somebody looking so much like someone else and having like that coincidence that the person's murdered and that you would look so much like them, like there's just, I don't know, there's just something to that where it's like, okay, I'm not totally sure if I would usually believe that kind of a coincidence, but I kind of already knew that going into the book. I was like, okay, I know that plays a piece in this book, and I'm okay with that. And if you can just go along with that piece and just kind of move through that, oh, the writing, Tana, like kudos to you. Like the writing is so, this beautiful marriage between like these poetic, deep insights into like the human condition of beauty, and like observing these just stunning things throughout the entire book. It's just it's pure poetry, insights. It's art, and then it's just coupled with these gritty realities of blunt life, and how the intricacies of like interacting with human beings back and forth, and all the things that run through people's minds, and the insight into someone's psychology is breathtaking to me. Like I just found myself just being like, wow. So if you can't tell, I really enjoyed the book. I'm laughing at myself because it's just like, wow. There's there's other authors that I've read that are very flowery. I'll use the word flowery, where it's like they really use a lot of descriptors and a lot of adjectives, and it goes over the top, and it just is too much. For whatever reason, Tana French rides this beautiful blend. Like she rides just on this line where it's like anything more and it would be like, oh my gosh, stop. And anything less and it would just be like, I don't know. There's this beautiful balance between these things. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I'll have to read some more and see if she can. I'm assuming that is a mark of her writing. I'm actually on the back of the book. I'm reading it, and it says Newsday has a quote, and it says French's already signature blend of psychological insight, beautiful writing, and wry humor is on display once more in the likeness. So with that review, I'm assuming, yeah, this must be her how she writes. Yeah, and there's I don't even know what I was trying to say there. There's I think what I'm trying to say too, like there's that balance obviously with the sort of the poetic pieces and then also the grittiness. But there's this beautiful storytelling at play as well. Like there's these ideas that are running through the book. One of them is that sense of belonging, and there's like this sense of yearning that she really taps into with humans, and just I don't know, the pieces that I was really satisfied with, and you'll know this, I'm going to keep it kind of vague because I don't want to give away some of these things, but there's just these really wonderful pieces throughout the book that it has a setup to it, and then it has just a really satisfying end to it. I really appreciate the way in which she wove together the story and how she kind of tied it up at the end. And I don't mean the overall story. I mean, there's some really little tiny things here and there that are just lovely. So, overall, I'll try to be a little bit more specific here. Overall, like the book follows Cassie. She she was a detective with the murder squad. She had some issues, some kind of a little bit of a mental breakdown of something, and she just was like needed to step away from that for a while. And then she kind of gets pulled back in because she looks like this woman who was using her old alias, undercover alias. So that's all in the first chapter, and then it goes from there. It dives into she goes undercover out in this house out in Glenskeggy. And it's a beautifully done piece. I know I keep using that word and I keep saying that over and over, but if you read it, I think you'll understand what I'm kind of driving at with that. But there's a lot of police procedure in the book too, as far as like how the squad works and like how some of the detectiving happens and the undercover work. And there's I find some of that really satisfying sometimes, not always, but what it reminds me of, like, I really appreciate culinary books and culinary like TV shows, and even stuff where it's like where they're cooking while they're talking or cooking, like cooking shows, competition cooking shows, even novels and books where there's a lot of cooking. I like it because there is that. They usually have a bit of procedural type things that they describe, and that happens in the likeness quite a bit. It's police work that there is the procedure, and I appreciate it. I found it. I don't know. There's something to it. I think that is strange as it sounds. That is somewhat calming, and I wanted to say it's because it's like, here's the system. We go through the system and the process, and okay. Even though they're dealing with, dead bodies. I don't know. That sounds really macabre, and it is. Yeah. I do want to mention at the end of the book, I did get really choked up at one point. There's I'm not going to actually give it away, but I got really choked up. There's just a piece with a parent, and I was like, yep. So I would describe the book as being somewhat devastatingly beautiful. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate everybody listening. If you do check out the book, or even if you don't check out the book, find me online, reach out. I really do enjoy interacting with people on social media and even through my website. You can find me at paulcramactor.com. Just let me know what you're reading if you want to. All right, everybody, let's keep being kind to each other.